Welcome to Props and Hops, a podcast pursuing the best in betting and beer. I'm your host, Matt Landis, and this week it's all about the beer because we have a special guest, Brian Rauso, co-owner and CEO of Green Cheek Beer Company in Orange, California. Brian's also the co-host of the Frenchie's Friends podcast, but really focusing on the beer for the purposes of this conversation. It should be no surprise to regular listeners of this show to hear me say once again, Green Cheek is my favorite brewery. And coming up this Saturday, June 24th, Green Cheek celebrating its 6th anniversary. Brian, it's an honor to have you on the show. Feels to me like it's been a long time coming. Welcome to Props and Hops.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Yeah, welcome. Thanks for having me. It's been too long. We're trying to get this going, but yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, and part of why it's been a long time coming is that we're even recording and releasing this interview a bit later than originally planned. So instead of starting by asking about your background, we'll get there. But I'd love to fast forward to yesterday for perhaps a really fitting anecdote to the glorious life that is the brewery owner.
Oh, man. Yeah, we were supposed to do our podcast yesterday, had it all going, and Sunset Beach decided the kitchen decided to basically partially catch on fire, which was the grill. I get calls. It's like, hey, Brian, they sent a picture. There's like a fire coming out of the front of the grill. And I'm like, I don't even know how that's possible. So anyways, it was smoking, and it's that thing where, you can't, there's no one to call, so we ended up having to cancel the podcast so I could go out to Santa Fe Springs to get a 60-inch flat top grill, which weighs about 450 pounds, and get it in, put it in, which means I had to cut out the old one from, it took us, we got done about 3:00 this morning after cutting it out. And then this morning we had to go back and with 4 guys, because me and Justin couldn't put it back in. So yeah, we had to put it back in this morning. So it's been one of those days, and that goes with everything else. But it's funny. Owning a brewery, restaurant, all the aboves are always challenging. But yeah, there you go. It's we were supposed to do this yesterday, and once again, there's always some little thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if that hasn't been taken out, I could picture a future Green Cheek beer by the name of There's Always Something, or something to that effect. Might be painfully on brand, but a lot of people listening to this conversation might be more inclined toward the sports betting side of things. And I hear a lot from sports bettors that, trying to get a certain bet down before the odds change, or getting limited at a certain sports book, or trying to collect your money. It's always something in that lane of life as well. And I'll just say, if you're a bettor listening to this conversation, it's not just you. It doesn't just apply to betting. The grass isn't always greener. But that said, we carry on. And Brian, I'm glad to be carrying on in this conversation here with you. Now, for maybe a more proper introductory question, I would love to go ahead and get a bit of history when it comes into how you got into the craft beer industry in the first place.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny. I'm sort of a serial entrepreneurialist. So I had 3 or 4 companies in the last 30 years. One of the recent ones was I was at Noble Ale Works before this, but I was a computer consulting for 17 years. I had a company. A friend of mine said, hey, I'm starting a brewery. Do you want to, put your money in? And we're going to start this brewery. And I'm thinking, yeah, sure. So 22 of us put in money to start this brewery, and it was Noble Ale Works in Anaheim. So it just happened that, I'm still doing my gig. I'm doing my computer consulting. And then, within a couple of years, they asked me to help them out with the CFO side of it. So I came in, started doing that, and then sort of got the bug as soon as you get in that community and the people. So I was really enjoying that. And then things happened, and they wanted me to become the CEO. And I'm like, sure, why not? So I closed my companies, and I became the full-time CEO of Noble Ale Works. That was around 2015 or 14. And then 2017, me and Evan were like, okay, let's start our own thing. And we started Green Cheek. So that's 6 years ago come this Saturday.
And when it comes to that Green Cheek origin story, you mentioned Evan, who was also working closely with you at Noble. How did that origin story come about? Because you guys had developed quite a following at Noble, which, by the way, any baseball bettors listening to this conversation, that's within about a Shohei Ohtani or Mike Trout home runs distance of Angel Stadium. So Noble, definitely a good spot if you're checking out something at Angel Stadium or at the Honda Center, formerly the Pond. Green Cheek, not too far away either. What else can you share about the origin story, making that pivot from Noble to your own venture in Green Cheek?
I think it was one of those with Noble. There were a lot of owners. There were 22 owners, and with us, we wanted to have more say in exactly what happened, how it happened, and it was that thing where I left first and found Valiant. There was a brewery near us that was closing and was able to make a deal on it. And then Evan was, he's like, okay, yeah, I think it's time for me to go. And, we just said, okay, let's go. You be the beer, I'll be the business. And, the yin and yang of a really good relationship when it comes to business. So we just, said, hey, let's go do this. Let's base it on better beer, not more beer. And then I think that's what really got both of us. He took on those reins. He was a great brewer then, still is now, innovative. And since then, we did that. He's taught me so many things on beer, food, coffee, wine. He's very, very good at those sensory things. And I'm a business person. And so I've taught him a lot of things on the business side. And, it's been funny over the years that, I'll say something, like, I think there's DMS in this, man. I'm not really sure what I'm picking up. Or he just looks at me. He's like a proud papa, where it's like, oh my God, he's getting it. And then he'll say something to me like, I don't know what the ROI on this is, but, I don't think it's going to be very good. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So anyways, the business started from that. And, the name Green Cheek comes from the wild parrots of Orange County. We're actually pretty much up and down the Southland. But nobody knows where they came from. They're very social and kind of annoying, which is kind of me and Evan.
I love it. And you mentioned a yin and a yang there with that match. I also think I see elements of a yin and yang when I think of how seriously Green Cheek must take the quality of its beer, because it really is top notch. And at the same time, how playful the company is when it comes to what I pick up on the culture and everything you can see in the design, from can art to Instagram photos and videos to even the decor of the tasting room. Or for people watching this on YouTube, we can see some great artwork in your background just off to the side of the main tasting room in orange. And I'd also love to point out how lighthearted the beer names are. I mean, there are a bunch of classics. Some of my favorites over the years being Why is the Lawn Chair in the Pool? West Coast IPA is dead. The OG day one can release, Sink or Swim Hazy IPA. I mean, you don't need to know beer to get a laugh out of some of these, or to really get the vibe that it's going for. So Brian, as a business, how would you say you approach that maybe delicate balance at times of being a legitimate operation, but at the same time keeping a very playful spirit?
Yeah, I think it is, you don't take yourself serious in the look at what you're doing. We're almost a comic book looking kind of mentality of what we look like. But it's dead serious when it comes to the beer, right? So I think that's the whole point is, not feeling like you're making the best beer, but always trying to make the best beer. So I think, it comes across, and, I don't have to tell you, I'll show you, taste it, see what it's like. So I think we always let our product, our locations, our people say what we are, who we are. So I think you have to, and on the business side, you have to be serious, right? And we have 80 employees, 85, I'm not sure, it sort of varies, but you have a lot of people that are depending on you and your team, and it's a serious thing. And, as you grow and do things, I think you have to have fun with it. And I think that's one of the reasons I think people like us, and why employees like hanging out here and, doing this journey with us. So, yeah, I think it's a big, good once again, yin and yang of the seriousness, but also the playful, the names, the joking, the almost the caricatures of Cheeky and his adventures.
And as you gave that answer, I was taken back a bit to my college days in a writing class. I remember a professor having the mantra, show, don't tell. And he talked about that kind of with the quality of the beer. And I'll say that there are a few concrete demarcations that have been announced recently that I think really cement Green Cheek's truly elite stratus in this realm. World Beer Cup was held recently. That's essentially the Olympics of beer. And Green Cheek took home 4 medals in a very competitive contest with breweries from all over the world. And one of the medals was a gold in the juicy or hazy IPA category for wherever you go. And I'll say if the World Cup is the Olympics of beer, then this hazy IPA category is the 100-meter dash in terms of being perhaps the most competitive, prestigious category. So to claim gold there really says a lot. But it wasn't just one gold medal. There was a second one for English style brown ale for this is Ryan's award-winning brown ale,
Yep.
a silver for contemporary Goza, Guava in Berlin, a bronze for Imperial IPA, aka double IPA, for a beer titled A Permanent Case of Senioritis. And Brian, as if that wasn't enough, Firestone Invitational on the heels of World Beer Cup, you guys took home the People's Choice Award. And another parallel, if the World Beer Cup is the Olympics of beer, then I'll say the Firestone Invitational has got to be the Super Bowl of beer festivals. So I feel like on one hand, living for external validation can be a pretty dangerous game. But on the other hand, these are really massive accomplishments. And just how much affirmation does that give you? And what do you think it says about the state of what Green Cheek is doing these days?
It's wow. It's that you try not to take it too serious in a lot of ways, but it's the hard work that the team puts in, that everybody puts in, like you were saying earlier, the seriousness of what we do, the affirmation of, okay, we're on the right track. Because a lot of times it's hard, we got stumped over some years, you get some feedback, some validation, but every once in a while you're like, okay, we are, because the tasting rooms are full and we're doing really well and all those things, and we get really good feedback. But it's when you're, these people that judge these beers that are qualified and they really know what's going on, and they're saying, okay, yeah, you're doing really good stuff. And then in Firestone Walker, just being invited there is amazing, right? The amount of breweries get invited throughout the world is a very small amount. And for the crowd to just say, hey, there's massive, beautiful breweries here, but we think you're the best one here. It's just, like I said, once a great thing. And I think you do these things, but you come back and you put your, head down and you go back to business and working and trying to make it better. And, like I said, Evan yesterday dragging around trying to find, was it coconut milk? Specific one, because we had tried 30 of them and this was the one he liked, and couldn't find the size and he needed 33 gallons of it. And, it's just funny. That's why I just laugh. I just look at him and shake my head like, Jesus, man, you kill me. You got that thing like, it's like Rain Man when he gets something in his head. It's like, yep, I'm going to find it. I'm not going to substitute. So yeah, I think, I guess those things are amazing and they're great. And you love it for the team and the company and the image. And, you don't rest on your laurels. You're already like, you're coming home and what's next? I mean, how can you push the envelope? Well, I mean, is it going to be the wine? Is it going to be, our food? Is it going to be some other thing? So, yeah, you love it and you're happy that people just enjoy it.
And I want to touch on the diversity of Green Cheek's portfolio shortly here, but I feel like I'd be remiss not to move on from all those accolades to note that with those awards comes a lot of hype in the beer community, and that in some ways makes your beer a lot harder to get. I think of as recently as this Monday, North Park released a collab with you guys called The Price is Right, a triple dry hopped hazy double IPA. And within a couple of hours on a holiday, on a Monday after a long weekend, this thing sold out almost immediately. And it's great to see because there's clearly an appetite for what you're doing. And I'm also wondering at the same time, what's your point of view on appeasing both the beer geeks that are out there, as well as some of your local and longtime core members of the Green Cheek audience and fandom?
It's funny. It's that it's a weird like mix between, like you said, the hazies, these beers that people, you see your beers all over the world. You're like, how did they even get this? And it's that group that are out there that like, I want this ISO. I'm looking at, what do you got? What do you got? So I think it's like everything else. Evan, especially when we first started out, it was more of like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm not, these are all the traditional, we're going to stay this way. But I think we've found and just know that that crowd that is hardcore craft beer fans, those are awesome and they're amazing. You can talk to them on such a deep level and they have so much knowledge, especially what they like and what they know and what they want. That you also have, we're local restaurants and bars and, spots that, probably 95% of the people that come through there are new to it. They just craft beer, and usually they call it microbrewery, but you're just, they're just looking for something good, and you're like, and that's the journey that we want to take them on. We tell our staff that, these people coming in might never have had craft beer, let alone our beer. So, where the aficionado will know that, hey, this hazy has this really cool, tropical fruity thing going on, and I like this. That doesn't equate to a lot of other people. So it's fun to sort of get your staff to like, hey, they're coming in. The biggest knowledge of it might know more than all of us, but also the person that doesn't know anything. You have to look at them and say, what do you like? What do you want? What's, because that's the funny thing is we love the ones that like, I hate beer. I don't like anything about beers. Don't want to touch the beer. Okay. So, I get that. Right. But what do you like? What do you like? Do you like fruity things? Do you like, do you like sour things? Do you like tart things? Do you like, it's fun just trying to get them, into a space where by the end of that thing, I don't really like this or this, but this is amazing. I'm not even sure what this is. And you're like, oh, right. It's a gold milk stout, something that, or something that's a sour, it's a whatever. And it's fun for them to get somebody on the new path of it's now their experience of, I enjoyed, if it's a West Coast IPA, I didn't know this even existed. And if I did try it, it wasn't very good. This one is really good. And I think that's the biggest thing we always say is you might not like, you say you don't like craft beer. You just don't like bad craft beer. And I think that's one of the, between the best, the someone that has beer knowledge and is the biggest beer geek out there, and the person is just coming off the street that just wants a light lager, and both sides of that, you give them the best of it, then you won. You win them over.
I really like the example of a West Coast IPA also because when I grew up in North San Diego County, a stone's throw from Stone Brewing, as I like to say, their IPAs were just about how much damage can we do to the palate? How high can we get the IBU count? How resinous and bitter can this be?
Yep.
And over time, that became an acquired taste. And there's a lot to be said for the quality of what Stone cranked out over the years. But now a lot of West Coast IPA, I think about what Evan does at Green Cheek, what Bob and the team do at Highland Park.
Yep.
There's so much balance where you can still pick up on something. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit piney or earthy, but you can get a lot of citrus, some tropical notes, and it's just much more approachable in that sense. So somebody who might have one experience a decade ago might be in for a whole different experience this time around.
Yes, and I think it's funny, we call them traditionalists out there that this is it. This is all it is. It's never going to change. Okay, I get it. You're right. That's why we will say it's a take on our take on an IPA or whatever that is, wit. So it's funny. That's why we're like, okay, yeah, it might not be if you go to the categories and this, it doesn't fit that, but we kind of like that we're tweaking it. And that's the innovation side. I think that's what gets Evan excited all the time of, how do you make it your own and make it better? And then each recipe, because, you have to variables of the hops. Like, we might have had a Motueka last time and it's not as good as it was, or it's better, and it's like, or it has this characteristic. What beer? So it's like a chef thinking like, okay, look at all these ingredients I have. What can I do with this? So yeah, I think you you just keep doing that thing you do and do it well.
And you guys have done plenty of things well, worthy of celebrating when it comes to accomplishments over the years. Again, marking 6 years in business with an anniversary party this Saturday, June 24th. Some details I'll share with the audience if they haven't already seen an Instagram announcement that you guys posted recently. The main party taking place at your Orange location. There will be beer releases, agua frescas, slushies. Also, going to see some games on site, a DJ spinning vinyl, and not just food trucks, but some really legitimate food being offered. Heritage barbecue on site from opening at 12 noon until 5 p.m. Then Days Pizza taking over from 5 to 10 p.m. No tickets required. So if I may work in a best bet for this episode, it's going to be that patience will be required because it's probably going to see quite a turnout, but with no charge for admission, everybody's going to get plenty of value out of that experience. I think it's also worth noting, Brian, that your two other locations, Costa Mesa and Sunset Beach, will have the new beers being released as part of the anniversary. But again, that main event happening in Orange. Is there anything I'm missing or anything else that you'd like to highlight about what's in store for this Saturday's anniversary festivities?
It's funny. I think it's the highlight part is being able to celebrate with our friends and people that have made this. Like this is all of our accomplishment. So I think it's more of just hanging out with your friends. And that's why I don't think we'll ever do a festival where we're going to charge for it in that kind of big ticketed kind of thing. It's great and they're really cool. But on our side, like this is like when I was come hang out with us, we want to enjoy it. So, I mean, other than that, I think it's about, we always like to see who's going to show up, because our friends over the 6 years, but also the years before that, it's kind of fun just who's going to show up and see like, holy hell, what are they doing here? In a surprise, like that's so cool. I'm so happy. And they want to say, good on you. We're happy that you're doing well and we want to celebrate with you. So that's what's cool about like, there'll be a lot of brewers. There'll be a lot of people that are technically our competition. They aren't our competition. They're all our friends. Our competition are the big boys, the AV and Bevs, right? Anybody else. And that's why, you collab with a lot of them, you borrow things from them, it's such a cool environment. So yeah, I think more of, it's going to be mellow. It's going to be crazy, right? But it's on our side, it's going to be just hanging out, talking to people and just enjoying the day in whatever it might bring. So yeah.
And I think a big part of enjoying the day for many in attendance will be getting their hands on some special beer releases. So let's just say I'm asking for a friend here. Any details you can share as to
No.
what beers will be released or when anything might be released this coming weekend?